that relates to immigration. So we do it free of charge. It's not for any pecuniary benefit. It is only to provide information and to also serve as a form of positive influence to the community. Today, we are discussing the breaking news regarding religious workers as it affects green card. That is the topic. Can you please pose the topic? Yeah, we are discussing the news regarding visa bulletin, April 2024 visa bulletin specifically. The visa bulletin was released by religious workers fall under EB4 category. So, when we are talking about religious worker, we are also talking about two different parts of a religious work petition. For the purpose of today's podcast, when I'm talking about religious worker, I'm talking about how to get green card. I'm not talking of R1. This development does not affect R1. We are only talking about people who want to transition from R1 to green card. We are talking of people who have either filed or have an approved I-360, who either have a pending application for green card or intend to submit an application for green card. Those are the people that are affected. So for today, we are not talking about R1. The reason is that R1 is a non-immigrant status. It has a completely different law that regulates it. It's different from the law that regulates the issuance of green card to religious workers. So for today's purpose, we are discussing the issuance of green card to religious workers. So as I stated, there are two categories of religious workers. We have religious workers who are ministers, and we have religious workers who are non-minister. So this new development only affects non-ministers. So if you are a religious worker and you are an ordained minister and your I-360 was filed as a minister, then this does not affect you. All this development does not affect you. Now, who is a minister? Even if you are ordained as an ordained minister, it does not mean that this will not affect you. What matters is the position. When the petition was filed, what was the position that was offered to you? Is the position a ministerial position or a non-minister position? So even if you are an ordained minister, but your position is a non-minister position, you will still be affected. We cannot go back to go and change the petition because immigration is going to use the job duty, the job title that was listed on the petition, on the I-360 petition. For those who have access to Form I-360, you will see that there is a portion of the form where they specifically request, is this a ministerial position? Is it a non-ministerial position? So at the time the petition was filed, if your position, the position that was offered to you by the religious organization, if your position was a ministerial position, then all these things we are talking about does not affect you. Example of a ministerial position, maybe the petition was filed on your behalf as a parish pastor. Maybe the petition was filed on your behalf as a youth pastor. Maybe the petition was filed on your behalf as a pastor of something. I mean, it has to be ministerial position. So at the time, this is determined by at the time the petition was filed. So it's not something that you can go back to change. Because one of the questions that I've received, which of course when I go into question and answer session, I will read those questions and I will answer them. One of the questions I've received so far is talking about, okay, this person is also ordained. It doesn't change anything. If the position at the time the petition was filed, if the position was not a ministerial position, the fact that this person is ordained will not change anything. This person will still be affected by this. So now, let me go into the issue here. The issue here is that on March 1st, 2024, that was probably last week. That should be last week, March 1st.
2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
Is it 2 weeks ago?
13th.
Okay, yeah. On March 1st, 2024, the president signed into law the extension of the non-ministerial position. Okay, maybe before I go into what happened on March 1st, let me go into the history of non-ministerial position. Like I said, if you are a pastor, if you are a minister, if the petition was submitted on your behalf as a minister or as a pastor, all these things we are discussing does not affect you. This only affects non-ministerial position. Okay, now, in 1990, the Congress passed a law authorizing people who are professionals, who are non-ministers, but who are needed, who are required by religious organizations. So in 1990, the Congress passed the law establishing non-ministerial position and giving them the opportunity to also apply for green card leader. Maybe you are the children teacher. Maybe you are the director of e-ministry. Maybe maybe you are the church administrator. Positions that are not ministerial in nature. So the Congress established this law in 1990. But with that law came a provision that, okay, this law is only going to be valid for 5 years. It has a terminating date when the law was created. Of course, since that time, Congress have always extended it. I remember during President Bush, I think there was a scenario like this too, where the date expired, it sunset, it expired. And I know at that time it took time before the Congress decided to reauthorize it. But the point is, since 1990, Congress has always reauthorized it. So it is taken for granted that they will reauthorize it. Because part of the question that I've received is that, oh, why did you not tell us this before, that this is going to happen? Has this happened before? Why are they changing the rule in the middle of a game? No, they are not changing anything. And two, I didn't know that they will not reauthorize it. And let me be clear, what we are discussing today does not mean that it will not be reauthorized. The law as of today is that extended. But what I have realized from experience is that it's like, the Congress lately, they have been battling with the issue of government shutdown. I am thinking, this is not authoritative. I mean, I'm not a member of the Congress, so I don't know if this is real or not. But I am thinking that this was probably because of the short-term measure adopted by Congress so that the government does not shut down. You will notice, if you have been following the American government, if you have been following the Congress, you will notice that recently they have been passing short-term measures just to prevent government from shutting down. So this new law was signed into law as part of the negotiation of the prevention of government shutdown on March 1st. That was when the president signed it into law. But of course, like I said, visa bulletins are released by the Department of State every month. So it is only when they release the April, because they release it 1 month ahead, it is only when they release the April visa bulletin that this information came to light. So when the April visa bulletin was released, the Department of State noted in the visa bulletin clearly, and of course with instruction to USCIS, to all the consular authorities around the world, that any non-minister visa or green card that is not approved on or before March 21st of 2024 can no longer be approved after that day without violating the law. So the only thing that can change this is if the Congress pass a new law extending it. Until they do that, of course, there is really nothing we can do. And of course, once this information becomes public, we have a responsibility to let our clients, if this law is extended, annually USCIS cannot issue more than 5,000 green cards in that category. So there are so many things that are different about non-ministerial position. On the other hand, ministerial positions are permanent. It doesn't expire. It's a permanent. The law that created it does not have any expiration date. It is permanent. It doesn't expire. It is only non-ministerial positions that expires. So that it is important that we state that. So in addition to the law being expired, for non-ministerial position, even if the law is extended today, it still does not affect the visa bulletin because there is a limited number, maximum of 5,000 visas in that category, maximum of 5,000 green cards that can be issued for non-ministers per year in that category. So even when the law is extended, we will still face the issue of visa availability. So it's very, very important that I make this very clear. So let me go into the question. I see that I have I'm getting messages.
The sound is going on and off. We've already checked it.
So can they hear me now?
Well, they haven't said anything else.
Here, keep talking.
Okay. I'm receiving messages here that some people cannot hear. Please, can you confirm if you can hear us now? You can send a message to let us know. But in the meantime, if you have questions, now is the time to start sending in your questions. But I'm going to start with the questions that I already have.
There's no questions yet.
No, some people have sent me questions privately before the podcast. So I'm going to start with the questions that I already have. I've received some questions from some of the pastors. So the first question I have, okay, I think I already answered this. It says, when did you find out about this? March 1st or just recently? Well, as I explained earlier, it was signed into law by the president on March 1st. But I didn't find out about it until the visa bulletin was released. The visa bulletin was released this last weekend, and I read it on Monday. That was when I found out, and that was when I started notifying affected people. The next question. Okay, I think I already answered this too. It says that this person is already is ordained as a minister. Does that help? Well, it does not help if the I-360 did not indicate that the beneficiary is a minister. If the I-360 indicated that the beneficiary is a minister, if the I-360 is yet to be filed. But even if the I-360 is yet to be filed, immigration will still link the job position with the ministerial position. So, for example, if somebody is ordained as a minister and you are petitioning for that person as a church administrator or as a children's teacher, it may raise some issues. But again, before I-360 is filed, amendment or adjustment can still be made. But once the I-360 is filed and is filed as a non-minister position, then it is too late. The next question, what will be the ultimate fate of people with pending green card application? Well, like I said, right now, their fate is hanging. If the Congress is able to reauthorize it, then they will be able to get the green card. But right now, every non-minister green card application that is pending is going to be on hold. Their case is going to be hanging. But again, they will also have the benefit because of the fact that they have a pending application for permanent residence. They may be able to continue to renew their employment authorization. So they have that advantage. It is only people who are yet to file the I-485 that will not even have any advantage at all. Yes, file the I-485. Yes, they may not have any opportunity to get employment authorization. The next question. When was the last extension done? Well, like I said, when I looked into it, I realized that when I looked into it, I realized that the last time it expired was actually last year, but it was reauthorized to expire in February of this year. And then when during the government negotiation, so when the Congress passed short-term reauthorization to avoid government shutdown, that was when it was also extended until March 21st of this year. Then another question that I have from this pastor: how can we assist as pastors and leaders? Yes, you can assist by putting pressure on the Congress. Of course, as pastors, you can call the congressman, you can call your congresswoman, you can call your senator. I mean, you can form yourself into a group, especially if you have an association of pastors or things like that. You can form yourself into a group and form a formidable pressure group and put pressure on the Congress to reauthorize this. Because one thing is clear, this non-ministerial position is very, very helpful for every religious organization. Most religious organizations cannot do without worship leaders, cannot do without maybe people who play instrument, cannot do without people who take care of their children's teacher, cannot do without a church administrator, cannot do without a lot of these non-ministerial positions. So just all you need to do is to put pressure on the Congress to extend the law that expired. That is all that you can do to assist in this case. Okay, those are the private questions. Okay, I see that questions have also started coming in. Okay, the first question here. If someone has an approved I-360 as a music director, could that person get ordained and then file a new I-360? Yes, that is possible. However, let me tell you where the challenge will come from. Number one, the maximum number any beneficiary or members of their family can stay on R1 is 5 years. That is the maximum number of years that a religious worker, somebody on R1, they cannot be on R1 for more than 5 years. That is the maximum number. So it depends on how far you are on that 5-year journey. So if you still have time, yes, you may be able to refile the I-360 in a new petition and then be able to adjust subsequently. However, if you have been on R1 for 5 years, that may no longer be possible. Remember, for employment-based, an applicant must be maintaining legal status as at the time application for green card is filed. And if you cannot be on R1 for more than 5 years, it may be difficult to continue staying on R1 and while filing a brand new application. The next question. Can you please clarify what you mean by minister and non-minister? Okay, I believe I've explained this before, but I'm going to explain it again. There are two categories of religious workers. One category are religious workers who are ministers, Another category of religious worker are religious workers who are non-ministers. Now, for ministers, they must be performing exclusive religious duty. Exclusive religious duty. Now, they must.
We're gonna have to announce that we're gonna restart it because people are not listening.
They are not able to hear.
Really breaking. It's really breaking out really bad. So it's like they're just not getting information. So maybe you want to tell them that we're gonna.
Okay, hold on, everybody. Please give us like 1 minute. We want to restart the system. We are getting complaint that a lot of people are not hearing us. So I'm just going to hold on for a second. Can you please restart it?
Offline and then go back on.
Yeah, you can log out and log back in so that, because this is a valuable information, this is not the time for this thing to be breaking. So we want to restart and reboot the system so that people can hear us clearly.
Okay.
So I'm going to hold on. I will not give out any additional information until we reboot.
Okay.
Please go ahead.